artificial intelligence tools are becoming so very much embedded in our workspace, from drafting contracts to summarizing meetings to, in the legal space, even analyzing legal documents. But there's a growing concern that businesses may unknowingly be putting themselves at risk and putting sensitive information at risk, because while AI can save time, improve efficiency, there's some legal opinion out warning that uploading confidential, legally privileged information into a public AI platform could potentially amount to sharing that information with a third party, may have some serious consequences. Safee-Naaz Siddiqi is a professional support lawyer in knowledge management at Cliffe Dekker Hofmeyr. We're talking about publicly accessible AI platforms. But talk to me firstly of how AI has been integrated in legal practice. There are a couple of trusted drafting tools. There's the Lexis AI tool. There's the Sabinet NetLaw. Just how is AI being drafted within a firm legal space? Safi, good morning.
Good morning, Lester. So that's actually a really interesting question and one of my favorites because, like you said, there are so many AI tools and different people have different definitions of trust. At CDH, we deploy Harvey and Lagora, which are top-tier legal specialist AI tools, and those, like you said, are slightly different than the commercially available LLMs. What sets apart the tools that we use are, firstly, there are confidentiality mechanisms that are in place. So we've got certain ISO certifications and undertakings from the provider. We also negotiate with them directly. And as you can imagine, it's a law firm. So when we get an agreement, we don't just sign it off. It's not ChatGPT, click the box and you accept the terms of use. These agreements are vetted very carefully. We pilot before we roll out. We know exactly what they're doing with our data, and then we sign.
When we talk about legal privilege for those who are not necessarily au fait, what is considered legal privilege, and how would a third party have access to maybe a contract that I may be uploading to ChatGPT? How does exposing confidential, sensitive information to a publicly accessible LLM exposing or potentially exposing your information to the online entire world?
So those are both very interesting questions. And I'm going to start with the second part, which is how does this happen, right? So you, Lester, have a strategy document that you need to complete for work. You want to consider last year's document, maybe you want to consider the financial statements, and you want a really slick PowerPoint presentation so you can impress management. But writing isn't your strong suit, and neither is designing. So you take all of that information and you plug it into ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, whatever it may be. Stop there. Some of that information that you uploaded, forget about being privileged, which, yes, is a bit of a technical legal term. Some of that may be confidential. In another circumstance, you might be having a rough time with your wife, and you go on to this AI assistant that seems so helpful, and you share really personal details, not just about yourself, but about your wife or your child. And this information somehow finds its way out into the public domain. And that can happen in one of two ways. The first way, there are more ways, but to keep it simple, the first way is that it's passive, in that this data could well be used to train ChatGPT's models. I remember there was a bit of a rumor that not us, but a different law firm had begun seeing their house-style templates on ChatGPT results because people had uploaded it into ChatGPT so many times, other people now had access to those templates. So we're not just talking about financial statements, we're talking about IP, we're talking about trade secrets, and then, yes, we're talking about privilege.
What information should you not be loading into a public AI platform. I have a business contract. I have my lease agreement. Maybe I have my anti-nuptial agreement. I want to make some tweaks before I go to a lawyer. Let me put it in ChatGPT. What should you not be uploading?
I would say don't upload anything that you wouldn't hand over to a stranger in public. Don't upload anything that you wouldn't upload on social media. Don't upload anything that you don't want people to know about you. But more importantly, when you're an employee and you're dealing with a business's information, keep proprietary information away. Keep information that you wouldn't share with a competitor away. And most importantly, don't share anything that is privileged. And you had asked what legal professional privilege was in lay terms. And I do want to get stuck into that because it's quite important. So when you have a lawyer, it's usually for a specific reason. Oftentimes it's because you're involved in a dispute. You're suing someone, or you're being sued, or you might be sued, and so you need a lawyer's help. The confidential information that you share with that lawyer, anything that you communicate with them, those things are privileged. It includes strategy about about your case. It would include communication that speaks to decisions that you need to make, thought processes within your organization, so on and so forth. Things that you tell your lawyer because you trust them, because that information is privileged, which means it doesn't have to be disclosed at court. But as soon as you start putting in things like legal strategy or communications that should only be meant for your lawyers because they're safe into a publicly available LLM, it can be accessed by a third party, potentially through formal request, although we haven't seen that in South Africa yet. And they could notionally see what you have not just prompted ChatGPT, but also its output. And giving away your strategy in litigation is tantamount to losing the case. So that is something that can happen before you get to court, before you even decide you're going to court, and it happens without people being aware.
Safee-Naaz Siddiqi, I promise you we'll have you back on here, but we've run out of time.